Thanks for tuning in to another show in the Next Reel family of film podcasts.
Want to skip those ads and get early access?
Become a member at TruStory.fm/join and discover all the other great perks that come with it.
I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to the Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Alien Covenant is over. To compose something so majestic, one could die happy if one died. That's a thinker, right? You're really thinking now about this movie, Alien Covenant. It had been a long time since I watched this again.
Yeah, I mean, I'd only seen it when we talked about it for the film board back in 2017. So this is the first time I've returned to it. I didn't like it then. We'll see if things changed. My goodness. Yeah, we're returning to our Alien series. That's we finished our David Mamet Directs return last week, and now we're back to the Alien series with two more films to cross off the list, Alien Covenant and Alien Romulus. And here we are.
Yes. Now, Andy, I want to start with an assessment of the setup of this movie. Can I?
Okay.
I think putting us in the context of the colony ship setup is one of the great threatening setups for this franchise. I think it's great. And I feel like it ends there. My assessment ends there. I was reaching for some other positive words.
I don't disagree. That's a really interesting idea. I mean, we've seen colonists before, never on a ship, but like particularly in the director's cut of Aliens, we see the people trying to live and to make a living on Hadley's Hope before the aliens infiltrate and kill everybody. That's, these people trying to terraform a planet and turn it into something livable. Here we have a whole ship full of several thousand colonists in hypersleep on their way to a planet that they have discovered from afar that, for all intents and purposes, seems like it should be livable. Like they don't even have to terraform it. They just are going to plop down and start farming, is what it sounds like is the intended goal. That's the whole plan. We'll get to the Prometheus connections in a minute, but then the whole thing kicks off with a deus ex machina, a plot accident. This I can't even remember what it is.
Like a solar flare,
it's like a solar wave, of thing that like ripples through space, and it's a neutrino burst. That's what it is, Pete.
Oh, good. I'm glad you got that.
Better than a solar flare.
Yeah.
It hits the ship, and of course, Walter, the new David, had just unfurled the solar sails to like absorb some sun and get some energy. And of course it hits it and knocks them out, and they have to stop and wake the crew up to fix everything before they get on their way. So the whole thing starts because of an accident. And so there's already little agency or purpose as to like how we're setting this story up.
Yeah. Right. And it begins a sort of cascade of weird decisions that are made by the captain and the crew that just feel over and over and over like, as you said, plot contrivances. No decision feels particularly lived in or authentic. It all feels in service of a script that doesn't know what it really wants.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, I was thinking about this a lot as I was kind of trying to process this before our conversation. I'm like, what is this movie trying to say? What are the themes? Like, what's it reaching for? And the only thing I could really think about, I mean, obviously there's kind of this, the drive to kind of create or play God. That is the whole David side of the story. But I think even bigger than that, what I came up with is the story is about decisions getting made for the wrong reasons. And it's kind of a weak theme. It's like, okay, that's the story. Because you could argue even David fits that, right? He's also making decisions for the wrong reasons because he thinks that is God and wants to prove that he is better than the engineers who made man, who made him, and he wants to prove that he is actually better than all of that. That's kind of like the crux of his decision making. But we also, again, going back to this ship, the colony, it's a ship designed to colonize a planet. Everybody on the crew included. And so everybody on the crew is a couple.
Yeah.
And so you put a crew full of couples in a situation like this, and things start happening where people start dying. You run into a situation where people are making emotional decisions. They're not making fact-based or decisions based on reason. And that's kind of where we end up with the story, is a lot of it is based on emotions. And while I think there's an interesting idea there, it's like, I don't know if that is a big enough reason to bring us back into the Alien franchise. It's just about people making bad decisions. Because that feels like so many horror movie problems.
Well, it is, but this is interesting in terms of big swings that the movie is trying to make. And I want to heavily caveat that by saying, look, this movie is making big swings for the wrong reasons. I do think that is a different thing than we've had in Alien movies past. Making everybody coupled is essentially the deleted sequences from Aliens, right? Like, that is an interesting part of the world of colonization in this universe. And I actually think that could have been really compelling. I don't think the movie actually commits to it enough. We have two major sequences where the couples matter. The first one where Franco, do we need more Franco, less Franco? Are we Franco'd out by the time he's free climbing at that? Come on. So Franco stunt cast, he's gone.
He was in more scenes that were cut.
Okay. Did you see them? I have not seen them.
For this, I watched a good number of deleted scenes to try getting a better sense as to what could they have found a way to make this better.
Okay. All right. Well, then I stand by my assessment, given only that I haven't watched any of the deleted scenes, and I am ready for you to disabuse me of this. But I think that the entire idea of putting extra strain on the human fallibility that comes from making relationships from the wrong, or making decisions for the wrong reasons because we're coupled, is interesting. I think that is a new take on this entire story, and putting them, had they skipped this entire cockamamie nonsense of trying to tie the movie to Prometheus and just gone to the original place and have the original place already colonized by aliens, that's threatening enough. Like, they've already won. And they just snatched it. They snatched a good idea from the jaws of failure, and they made a movie that's nonsense to me.
I mean, it's a great way to kind of break it down, because I think that's so much of the problem is the number of ways that this ended up feeling like it was getting shoehorned in, right? I mean, first, coming from Prometheus, and we should just say this particular script went through maybe not as many iterations as Alien 3, but it certainly went through a number of iterations as they were trying to figure out the story. Initially, by the time that our crew lands on this world, Shaw is still here. She's still alive, and she has been hiding in the catacombs underneath the city from David, who is, trying to play God and kill her and stuff. And so she is now trying to help these people who have landed. Like, that was the initial premise. And they were, the story idea was always to kind of continue the thread of what happens with Shaw and David. That's where they were going with that. Then they had this whole thing where when Shaw and David arrive, the whole thing, the scene that we have where he drops the black goo bombs onto the engineers, right? The premise was that because she brought his body back into the ship, put him back together, they became friends more out of necessity than actual friends, because he wasn't, I mean, we both rewatched Prometheus. I think it's fair to say that she was probably already a little suspicious of him by the end of that movie, even though she brings him back on board. But when they arrive, he says everything he's about to do is for her out of love. He asks her if she trusts him. She says yes. And then he bombs the planet. She's horrified. It was his twisted act of vengeance on her behalf against the beings that created him. Like that was his intention of why he did that. And like it's no better than what we have now, but it still is just like, okay. I mean, it's just strange, but I guess at least there's some emotional logic and something in there. I don't know, but all of that got muddied and everything got changed as, I mean, the studio, I think when Ridley Scott initially wanted to make Prometheus, I don't think there was nearly as much alien connective tissue as there ended up being. I think the studio kind of forced that hand. And now, because of that, they ended up feeling, well, we really need more of that. And I think it was the studio's drive to say, we really want more aliens. And so we end up getting a lot of this stuff that just feels shoehorned of. Clearly, Ridley Scott had more interest in David and AI and its evolution and the way that kind of worked in this world, paired with his interest in like the origin of and creation of people and where did we come from and all of that. And the studio just wanted monsters. And it all kind of got mashed together, and we just get this amalgam where nothing feels connected or logical. Like by the time we have now, the scene where David just arrives and bombs the engineers, I was watching them like, what the hell is this? Like, why? What is going on here? The only thing I could come up with is it's like, okay, it's again, that thread. He wants to prove he's better than them because, again, engineers made him, and he wants to, in the whole God complex thing, wants to show that he's actually better. So it's a sloppy story that came together because so many different things were trying to happen here.
Yeah, and I feel like can we just take a beat on Prometheus and maybe even the Prometheus Covenant pairing that could have been. I don't know what Ridley Scott wants in his heart of hearts. I really don't. But I do think that there is a movie inside of Prometheus about creation, origin of life, seeding the planets, that is worthy of a guy like Ridley Scott to tell, right? There is something that is big and beautiful that lives up to the first 8 minutes of Prometheus and tells a great story that is totally disconnected from the alien universe, right? Ridley Scott is a director who could manifest that story. He's a guy who could do that, right? He is a big enough talent. He could marshal the resources to tell a story, even as a trilogy that addresses the advent of sort of evolution across time, and even does it in space with AI and androids and all that stuff. He could have done it and pull it out of the Alien franchise altogether, and it could have maybe even been great. I can't start complaining about this movie without leveling that foundation, because I think all of my complaints about this movie and Prometheus start there. That they started on a false premise from a filmmaker who either misguidedly or due to studio coercion tried to shoehorn a new property into an existing property and made what I think is possibly the greatest example of studio creator malfeasance that we know. This is a massive, jarring rug pull on fans of an existing franchise from a guy who just wanted to talk about the nature of God. And that is the fundamental problem. Everything starts there for me. Every single problem I have with this movie starts with them trying to make this something that it is not. Clearly, Ridley Scott wanted to talk about David and Walter more than anything else in the world. And he wanted them to have a fingering flute sequence that becomes the emotional anchor of this entire damn movie. And maybe in that other movie, it would have been great. Here, it is a joke. It is a joke. That's my platform statement.
Well, no, and I think that's a fair place to just start, is that because they whoever decided that all of this needed to be shoehorned into the Alien franchise, they made a massive mistake. Let Ridley tell an original sci-fi trilogy, quadrilogy, whatever it was he wanted to originally do about AI and its evolution. Clearly, he had no interest, and we talked about this plenty on the film board, but clearly he had no interest in creating a look that could have led to Alien. Like, none of this even looks like a prequel. It all looks like it was made today. Like, all of the ships, everything, the design is so far ahead of where Alien was by the time we see that. And I think that's a big blunder. And so he just, I don't think, had interest in doing that. And so I think he was just doing what he wanted to do. And it just made just a massive mess of these two movies. And honestly, I'm kind of glad that the whole thing has kind of fallen apart now that Disney purchased it. I mean, I say that I was not a fan of Alien Earth either. I know it has its fans, but for me it just was not working. So I don't know if Disney is the right house either. Anyway, we'll continue our conversation about all of that and where it's gone next week as we get into Romulus. But as for this film, I absolutely think you're right that that's the main issue, is starting there and giving us a setup for something that really just doesn't make sense in this universe. Because now we have this black goo that I don't even think I even fully understand. Somehow the black goo infects people. We see it in Prometheus. We see it here. It infects people. It turns you monstrous. It either turns you monstrous, or I don't know, now that there's these spores, it creates these neomorphs that burst out of you and run amok. So we've got those now. But then David has somehow also engineered from the black goo, and I don't know, perhaps from Shaw is, I think, the impression that I got, facehugger eggs, and has just been sitting idly around waiting for the day that somebody would stop by so that he could try him out on them. And of course, Captain Oram is the one who gets the facehugger, and we get the actual xenomorph that comes out that we see in the last part of the film. And I guess that's where it goes from there. But it's like, to what end? Like, it's clearly not a direct lead into Alien. He's off to this other world with all the colonists, and he's just going to experiment on them and play God and do God only knows what. But it's definitely not LV-426 from Alien, because the engineer ship is there, right? None of it, and it's a world that has to be terraformed. It's not one that's already livable. And so I don't know, in the scope of what they're trying to even set up, it just doesn't make sense. It just feels like a random story to nowhere.
So we've talked about our frustrations with, well, I guess I should say, I should ask you this. Are you frustrated? Is one of your central frustrations that Numi's gone?
I mean, it would have been nice to continue that story. I don't know if I needed it. Honestly, I liked how in the original Alien quadrilogy, we had the Ripley thread running through it. Like, I do like that. I think I was bothered enough by Numi when I rewatched Prometheus that I was okay that she wasn't back. Like, it just didn't feel like it was a story I needed to see continued, So that's not a central problem for me. And in fact, the fact that when the movie came out, there wasn't an uproar like there was when Alien 3 came out, and people found
right.
out that Hicks and Newt had just been written off as, they died in the crash. Like, there was none of that. Like, there was no, oh my God, you killed Shaw, how dare you? So I think that says a lot.
I think you're right. I think my only criticism of it is I like Noomi Rapace as an actor, and I think she, given the material that she is dealt with, there are some horrific moments that are paced terribly in Prometheus. There is very little sense of threat, but we do have some major action beats that involve her that I think she does fine, even as the movie falls apart around her. It is frustrating to me that she is gone, because if you're going to try and connect these two things, maybe you should try to connect them by way of your central character from the last movie. And I think Ridley Scott decided between these two movies, do you know our central character is now going to be the android? that's going to be how we're going to do this. And we're not going to connect it with humanity, which is a fundamental problem of our characters. Because I didn't come away from Prometheus thinking, God, I wish I could see part 2 of the Fassbender story. That was just not the story I wanted. He was in 2 pieces, right? He was being drug around the desert. That is not a character I'm really interested in following. And so we get the Empire Strikes Back ending, right? It's like, oh, we're going to fly off and find vengeance and figure out why the engineers are such jerks. And then that story, we're just done with it. So that was a fundamental challenge. But then let's talk about the Fassbender thing, because clearly...
Yeah.
Well, you have a question?
No. It wasn't a question, but I'm glad you're going into this, because I want to talk about Fassbender and protagonists and the nature of like the intent of our characters in this story. So go ahead.
Yes. Who is the damned protagonist in this story that we're supposed to follow? Because it feels like the protagonist changes from act to act across Prometheus and Covenant. Who does Ridley Scott love the most and want us to be our avatar? Who does Ridley love the most?
Is that what it's about? Who do I love the most? Well,
yeah.
if it was that, it's David for sure. But
yeah.
But here's the thing, and this film is so problematic as it comes to the protagonist, a change character. Like, is there a change character in this film? I mean, ideally, there should be a character who has an arc over the course of the story and changes. The closest we have to that is Orem, Billy Crudup's character. He becomes the captain after the captain burns up in his cryo tube, or whatever it's called, the hyper sleep chamber, and nobody likes him. And
right.
So honestly, he's in a really unfortunate position of like the captain is in the first position and his wife is in the third position and he's sandwiched between the two. I mean, it's kind of, come on, that's a little unfair to put him in that position. Yes. But anyway, he's not very liked. He makes this stupid decision because he thinks that it's what the people want and it might help them like him more by saying, you know what? Let's go to this other planet. It's only 2 weeks away. John Denver's already on the radio. Otherwise, we have to get back into our hypersleep chambers for 7 years to finish going to this other world. This could be livable. I mean, John Denver's there. It's worth a shot. And even though we have Daniels saying, this is dumb, we need to just move forward. And then over the course of discovering that this world is terrible and everything is trying to kill them, Billy Crudup's like, I'm sorry, you were right. I'm so dumb. And then, of course, he gets the chest burster. It's like, okay, if he was supposed to be our protagonist and our change character, you really screwed that up, guys.
Yeah.
Second, let's look at Daniels. Daniels already doesn't want to go to this world. She's never a change character. It's a bad decision from jump. And she's on that train all the way through. She never changes. She's always like, nope, this is terrible. This is terrible. And then she finally gets off the world. She gets hosed by David. So she's ideally treated as the protagonist. But
she's
like
the worst protagonist because
she's
the worst protagonist is one who is right all along. That's the lesson. The universe proved me right from jump. Sucks.
I know, it's terrible. The third option is David. And it's like, David never changes. He already is gung-ho with his mission to prove himself as God, like from the start, right? He's been experimenting for 10 years on whatever is left on the planet. He's made these xenomorphs, the face huggers. He's done all of this. He's gotten what he wanted. No deviation in his life, no reversal. He's fixed from jump. And yet I would say he's the character who has the clearest goal, the clearest agency, but he's not the protagonist. He's definitely the antagonist of our story. So that's what we're left with, those characters. Now, if they had said, you know what? Let's make Daniels the one, like, she's not captain. She's second in command after her husband dies, right? Let's say that Orem, the new captain, is the one who's just like, you guys, I know this world is really close. I know John Denver's there, but we need to stick with our plan and go to the original world. And Daniels is the one who's just like, you know what? Everybody thinks that we should at least check this out. It's only 2 weeks away. We can get over there and just look at it and just see what's going on. And if she had been that character and he had been the one who wanted to get to follow the original plan, she could have been the one who actually changed and recognized that I was making emotion. Then it ties into the whole theme that I came up with. I recognize I was making decisions based on my emotion, based on, because I'm hurt because my husband died and I want, everybody to be happy. And now I'm wrong and I'm sorry. And then we see her all the way through and she's fully punished for everything all these decisions she made. Every single person dies, including all the colonists. That would have been much more interesting. But do they do that? No. So it's just a mess.
And when Orm gets the chest burster on a new planet, or on the new planet that he didn't want to go to, that is the best lesson for Daniels to see how much she screwed up.
Yeah.
As such, neither character is a change agent in this story at all.
No. Just a disaster. Just a total disaster.
Okay, so meanwhile, back to the Bender's Fass.
Yes. Yeah. Antagonist and then Walter with the funny accent.
Yeah.
The funny. I'm gonna drop my register a little bit for this one and go full American. What do you think, Ridley?
Oh, now. Oh, now. I have a lot of complaints about this movie. This one doesn't make the list.
It just stood out as like, how are we going to tell the two apart? Well, what if I talk like this the whole time? That'll do it.
I don't need to hear any more. Say less. I'm ready. Roll tape.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
But I will say, to your point, Fassbender, while, again, the antagonist is certainly not the protagonist, I think is still the most interesting set of characters in the film. Like, I genuinely enjoy spending my time with Walter and with David. I think they make for a fascinating duo, and everything that's going on with that story, like, I am actually engaged in. And I think that's probably because that was what Ridley was most interested in.
Yeah. I think that's the only thing Ridley was interested in.
Yes.
I mean, I really think that there are two things going on. I mean, first of all, we have David as this like expansive and curious and creative kind of older version, and Walter, the constrained and loyal and capable secondhand. And I think Fassbender plays the distinction, if we take off the voice, but the distinction through just his attention to physicality and attention and just the way he moves. I think he is a great vessel for this sort of twins role. I do think he showed up for the movie that Ridley wanted to make, and his parts. I think his parts were great. If the story had been better around him, I think that would have been great. The problem that I have is that I think there is a Fassbender-proof story problem, which is the David as Walter substitution. Were we supposed to, like, be tricked?
I can't remember if we talked about this in the film board episode, but it is absolutely one of the least tricky tricks if that was what their intention was, because I'm just like, well, of course he swapped. Like, the whole thing, it plays that way. He's got the axe. He's like, he looks at the other guy's hand. It's like, yeah, we know what's happening. Yeah, I never once suspected that it was actually Walter there.
Yeah. I think this is the problem. Fassbender was right for the role, and being right for the role made the script's trick totally impossible. It just did not play. It was telegraphed so early that I think there was no threat involved. And this is what, I mean, I feel like I've said it every single week for the last ever, that I do not mind tropes. I want tropes that play well. Play me. I am an emotional raw nerve going into a movie, and I want you to play me. And I was never once played by this movie in particular. And I went into this movie, Andy, thinking I was going to like it better than Prometheus, and that is just not accurate. That was not my experience. So, all right, just a quick jump back to the beginning of the movie. Where did you stand on the David coming online prologue that we get?
I mean, I think that, again, is there very specifically because of Ridley Scott's desires to focus on this story. And I think that is the setup for David's God complex, right? When he the whole moment that he has there of like, so God made you, you made me.
Why am I making you tea?
But I'm better than you. Yeah, why am I doing all of this? Why am I the subservient one? Like we get that from the start, and I think that's the setup for where David's head goes after all these 10 years lost in space.
Yeah,
but I think that's it. And did we need it? I don't know.
It feels really shoehorned. I mean, some of the movie feels like a movie. Some of it feels like specifically, we don't trust you, audience, to recognize the connective tissue between the last movie because it didn't play well. And so we're going to shoehorn in these beats because of a lack of trust, because the relationship we have as filmmakers and as studio with the audience is broken. And we're going to try to fix that by just beating you over the damned head with it. And that's what the prologue felt like to me.
Yeah, I think it sticks as something that, I mean, this was one of those films, and I think Prometheus was as well, where they released some short films ahead of time as a way to just kind of like entice audiences. And it felt like it should have just been like a separate short film released. It didn't necessarily need to actually be part of the film.
You watched all the short films, right?
Yeah.
Can we do a sidebar? I haven't watched them, so can you fill me in?
One is a life on the ship scene where we just have a sense of the whole crew. We've got that's where we have more James Franco as everybody's just kind of they're just kind of celebrating and drinking and stuff, and you just get a sense of the crew dynamics. You get a sense of the relationship dynamics. You get a better sense of who all the couples are that are on the ship. And I think that's largely what that one is. It's just kind of a setup as to who these people are on the ship. The second one is it's basically Shaw and David on the alien ship as they're traveling. She sews him back together. She kind of stitches him up. They agree they're going to like work together and stuff. And at the end of it, it's like he's putting her in a sleep pod to rest as they fly off to this other world. It's very short, but it's the only chance you get of seeing Shaw alive in any of this. The last one is essentially just a commercial for the new Walter model. It's just looking at like them building a new model, really designed as a commercial, like get yours today sort of thing.
Okay.
So that's it. It's
all right.
Not a lot. And it doesn't really add to a whole bunch of interesting stuff. Yeah.
I was hoping there was going to be a slam dunk and you would find the sort of Rosetta Stone that would unlock this movie for me.
I was hoping with a lot of the stuff I was looking at here, I mean, there are interesting bits, but I think the most interesting bit was just a little darker look into when David is talking. Who's he talking to? I think he's talking to Walter, but it might be Orem. Anyway, he's talking to somebody in his little laboratory about the work he's doing, and that's when you discover Shaw's body and what had happened to her. And he goes into a lot more kind of gruesome detail, and it makes it sound kind of like she had been alive for a while he was doing experiments on her, is kind of the way that it comes across. It sounded a little more gruesome, and it's still vague, but it could have been an interesting bit.
Okay. All right. We should probably take a break, and then we're going to talk about alien creatures.
Yes, we should take a break. So you can find the show on YouTube. You can join us live when we record. We'll even take your questions in the post-show chit-chat, and members get the replay and the extended cut. Subscribe to The Next Reel on YouTube. The link to this episode is in the show notes. We'll be right back.
Andy, I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier, but we do have a request that you do an ad break in your David voice.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. But first, you can find the show on YouTube.
Yeah, keep that handy. We're going to call back Andy's David voice. You know what the Next Reel family of film shows actually is? It's not just shows you keep up with. It's a place you come back to.
The Next Reel's film-by-film conversations, CinemaScope's deep dives into movements and genres, the film board on whatever's in theaters, Movies We Like's craft conversations, Sitting in the Dark's horror breakdowns. It's all here, waiting.
If that sounds like how you already spend your time browsing, discovering, going back to something you bookmarked months ago, consider becoming a member.
For $5 a month or $55 a year, you get early ad-free access to all 5 shows a full week before they go public, plus exclusive bonus content that doesn't live anywhere else.
Think of it as your library card. Head to TruStory.fm/join. That's TRUSTORY.fm/join. And sign up today.
The Next Reel family of film shows. The conversation is already here. Come find your next film.
Andy, we need to talk about xenomorphs, neomorphs, protomorphs, all the morphs, all the great
so
morphs.
many morphs. All the great morphs.
So in Alien, let's go back in time. 1979, the halcyon days of our first glimpses of the franchise. I think that Alien understood that xenomorph horror is almost entirely about the interval, the time between contamination and eruption, right? This is, everything in between there is normal. And we're just attempting to hold on to normal. The crew tries to process an impossible situation. There's a lot of research, a lot of not understanding. The audience kind of knows what's coming. Something bad is coming. And the knowledge arrives in the audience before it arrives in the characters, but not much before, right? It's that anxiety of fear. And the creature's terrifying because of what it represents in the interval, in the space between, not because of what it does when it finally arrives. We know it's a horror movie, it's going to slash, it's going to burst, and it's all going to be ooh-ah. But the intensity comes from what we don't know. So Covenant appears to have lost all patience in the interval, right? Our major characters are infected, convulse, and produce creatures in sequences that move so quickly as to register as just an incident rather than any sort of horror at all. The backburster scene that should be our version of the chestburster. And let me just say this. Saying you're doing something different in the franchise by making the animal come out of the back instead of the front is not a change character, right? It's handled so fast that the crew's reaction, they don't even have any time to establish a norm before the film has moved on to the next problem. And that is a major problem. It exists in the pacing of the horror. Everything is rushed too fast. Now, if they're going to come back and say, well, it's because they're different aliens, make a different damn movie. But they never once gave us any indication about why the organisms move so much faster than they do in the movie we already know about.
I had these problems when we talked about it in the film board. I still have these problems. And you can tell from the jump because in the opening credits, like Alien was very patient with the way that the pieces of the letters slowly built to spell alien on the screen. Here, it's like, Alien Covenant. It's like so fast. It's like, okay, you clearly are in a rush, Ridley. You've lost all interest in taking some deep breaths and kind of moving at a nice pace. And that, I think, said everything, because I think exactly what you said is such a problem in this film. All of this stuff is happening at such a pace. And this was my problem with Prometheus also. Like, everything is happening so fast. Like, the scientists, like, I think the whole thing, when I was looking at Prometheus, it's like, did this all take place in like 24 hours or maybe 48? It's a very tight story. It's like, give them a chance. They're scientists. Give them a chance to kind of explore and study. Like, there's time to allow for that. And they don't. It just, everything has to happen so fast. And it just, it ruins any tension, because it's like, I mean, I understand story pacing. You want to kind of keep things moving. You can keep things moving and still say, well, we've been here for 3 weeks now and trying to explore. Like here, you have these people step off a ship on an alien world and instantly like, oh, I'm just going to light up my cigarette and start smoking and walk around and not pay any attention to the thing. And same thing in Prometheus. They're like, oh, the air's fine. You know what? Screw this. I'm going to take my helmet off and I'm going to be fine. Like,
oh my God. That's triggering.
Oh, it's all of this is becoming more and more triggering for me in any of these movies where you theoretically have smart science people doing stuff that are so stupid. It's like my same problem in the Jurassic Park and World movies. It's like these are ostensibly really, really smart people who all are the stupidest. They make the stupidest decisions constantly in these movies. Same thing with these. It's like you can make a smart science fiction movie with smart characters that's also a horror movie and still make it work. You don't have to force them to make stupid decisions to have things happen to them. It just is infuriating and it's constant. And the speed thing is just one more thing that goes along with all of those issues.
I have to take a deep breath before my next, because as you can see, I have complaints about the handling of this, but all of that builds up to what I think is the worst xenomorph infraction that this movie could possibly make.
I'm excited to hear what this is.
The newly hatched creature is somehow standing on the open chest, facing David. The neomorph faces David, and David raises his hands in the air, and the neomorph raises its hands, its teeny tiny hands in the air, like it just don't care. And I almost was like, screw it, I'm turning it off. This is the stupidest thing. It's still the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I understand the intention, meaning we're going to demonstrate David's relationship to his creation. And there was zero awe. It was once again a joke. And I feel like Ridley Scott owes Michael Fassbender an incredible apology and probably a car.
And let's just also add the digital fact that it's a chest burster as opposed to like what we have had before, where at least it looked like a puppet.
Yeah.
Like even, we'll talk about this next week, even Fede Alvarez handles it better than how Ridley handled it here. It was the worst looking chest burster that we have had. It was just awful. Just awful.
And you know, it's actually funny. So Spirit Halloween, Andy, I'll bet you didn't see it going this way.
I'm glad we're going to Spirit of Halloween, though. This is great.
As we record this, Spirit Halloween has just launched. You know how they have like the 12-foot skeletons that you can put in your yard?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
They now have a xenomorph, a full-size xenomorph. It's $450, and you can stick it in your yard.
Now that Disney owns the franchise, no surprise.
Yeah. Expect your merch, y'all. So it's $450. You put it in. It has some animatronic features, and it's like the mouth comes out. It does all the stuff. And when you look at it just standing there, it looks, I know this is sacrilegious, it looks really stupid. It's just stupid, right? It's got its big hands and it's kind of like, come on. What was so great about Aliens, we never saw really the whole thing. Like it was always in dark and it was greasy and wet and there was steam all over. And it just, all the stuff you couldn't see was really terrifying. It was whipping tail and big head. Whip tail, big head, showing us the whole thing in like brightly lit, glassy CG just really reinforces that the alien xenomorph has some incredibly threatening pieces on it, and the rest of it is super dumb. And I know that's a controversial hot take, but it's a dumb-looking alien when you look at the whole thing. And I say this as a fan. So this movie takes all of the dumb and levels it up. There is nothing about the creature here that could be any less frightening, right? The digital versions are like somehow kinetically correct and vastly less real than anything we've seen before.
Well, I think it speaks to horror films and the nature of like Alien. I mean, yeah, it looked like a man in a suit. There's the one shot where Dallas turns around in the pipes and the alien and his light hits it and the alien's right behind him and just like and it reaches its arms out at him. It's like, okay, that's the moment where it looks most like a guy in a suit. But you know what? They cut out of it super fast. Every time we see it, it's short bursts. It's always dark. We're not really getting a full sense of what it actually is as a threat. Same thing in Aliens. Like we have a sense of them in the shadows and everything. And I think also the fact that the way James Cameron shot it made like with like the gymnastic people like jumping through the hallways and stuff made them much more terrifying. So yeah, their bodies when static might look kind of dumb, but when in motion in the dark, it can be incredibly, incredibly frightening. And I think, you could argue where it goes from there as far as Fincher's and Junet's versions. But I think by the time we get to these ones, and it's just all digital creations running amok, that it's just like, yeah, we're not doing a whole lot of work trying to sell it in a way that is scary anymore. Now it's just a thing that's there. And I mean, this film, I will say, I do celebrate the entire fight on the ship. Like I like that it's daylight. I like it. We've got this xenomorph running around on the ship. Like it's a really cool sequence. It plays very well. But at least throughout the rest of the film, give us some moments in the dark again. Make it like, they're in these like catacombs or whatever. And it's just like, we've got this big white neomorph like creeping through the hallways. And it's like, you should be scary, but it's so well lit that it's like nothing about this gives me any fright at all.
There's nothing haunting.
No.
There's nothing haunting about this.
Yeah.
No.
Big problem with it.
Big problem. Oh, God. It's exhausting, Andy.
So many issues. I will say, I like the score, but at the same time, I'm frustrated with the score. Because, again, the composer is bringing in elements of, this is Jed Kersel. He's bringing in elements of Jerry Goldsmith's original scores, of the elements from Prometheus, but not doing it in a way where it feels like it's evolving into where we're going to go. Again, like something John Williams did exceptionally with the Star Wars franchise when he went back to 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like the themes there were moving toward where we would get with episodes 4, 5, and 6. Like that takes a lot of work to back evolve your music and move it forward. And I don't think we're quite getting that here. It's still, I enjoy it well enough,
Yeah, I do too. I actually think that may be my favorite part of the movie is the score. I haven't just put it on and listened to it because I worry that it'll make me think about the movie, but I actually do. I do like the score. I have fond feelings about the score, which maybe says a lot. Maybe doesn't say anything at all.
I'm curious though I'm curious if your feelings about the score are because it has those elements that you like so much from Jerry Goldsmith's bit, from James Horner's bits, even from, I can't remember the composer's name from Prometheus, but even his bits, like that fantastic theme, which, again, is now incidental music because we have David playing it on his little flute, right?
Yes.
It's actually now, I don't know, is it his original composition that back played into Prometheus?
Jesus, Andy. It's a snake eating its own tail.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Okay, we've talked about Daniels as Daniels and Orem as Orem, but let's just talk briefly about the characters. And we haven't yet once mentioned Danny McBride.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so start with Katherine Waterston.
Yeah, and I have one other actor that I also want to bring up, but Katherine Waterston is fine. Like I have yet to watch a film where I've been wowed by her. Like nothing that has stood out for me. And here, she's fine. In essentially, I guess what we would call the Ripley role. Like it feels like that's kind of what maybe Scott and his writers were trying to do is like, let's make it where we think Orem is the protagonist, but then he dies and it's really Daniels. I don't think if that's what they were going for, it didn't work. But anyway, I think she's fine. doesn't wow me. But
it's interesting. She's an interesting performer. I think I like her. It sounds like I probably have a greater affinity for her than you do as an actor. I think she right for the role. The problem I have is that it almost feels like she was instructed to not be the Ripley character in a cast of characters not trying to stand out in any way. They're all trying to be uniquely scared or agent or, concerned or curious, whatever. The only character in the lot I think we have that shows any sort of, that is allowed to show any sort of range is probably Billy Crudup in our brief experience with him. And maybe actually Danny McBride as Tennessee, who I can't believe I'm saying this, maybe one of my favorite performances in the film.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that weird? I don't know if I would have expected that.
Yeah, what an astonishingly surprising performance that totally holds up. And I say that as a Danny McBride fan in the comedy, and I absolutely believed his role as lived in and solid in this movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've already talked about how most of the characters don't change. I feel like everybody here was instructed to blend in. This is another one of those movies in our long list of movies that is less than the sum of its parts, because every one of these performers is strong in other things, much stronger than they were here. And that's script and direction 100%. They also end up in, I think their strong on-screen performances end up completely negated by some of the bonkers action beats. The swinging around on the loader elevator ship felt like it was out of the Lego movie, hanging around on ropes as Danny McBride is trying to fly the loader around and get everybody up on the back. And like, it was nonsense. It was a nonsense action sequence. I hated it.
See, I like that sequence. That's like the
Really?
one thing I like in this movie. Yeah, is that sequence, because it's like it throws it off when the crane goes out and suddenly he can't control it anymore. So he's trying to find balance again with this giant arm hanging off that throws everything off. I thought it played.
Oh no, I know what it was trying to do. I just didn't. I just found I didn't buy it. I struggled with it. It did feel on the nose that, the Danny McBride had built up his anxiety. Like, I'm coming down there, right? I'm going to come down and get you. I'm going to fly through the clouds, and that's going to be my deal. I'm brave enough. I'm crazy enough. I'm crazy. Tennessee's crazy. So I mean, I bought the motivation. I just didn't buy the sequence.
And then that also goes to the decision making. It's emotional decision making that he has to bring the entire ship. Like, they're not in a dropship. They're in the entire ship full of frozen colonists down to like 80K above the storm, so that they can communicate with people. And then he dips it even lower because he's crazy, because he's of his emotions. And again, that's an example where somebody is making emotional decisions, but it ends up being okay. And I was convinced it wasn't going to be okay, because again, this movie really proves when you make emotional decisions, things go wrong. That's the one time that things actually don't go wrong.
Right. Weird kind of rug pull on you, Andy.
Yes, I know, right? You got me, Ridley.
It feels like kind of Ridley's out to get us. That's right.
I know. So I have one more question about characters.
All right.
And it's Demian Bashir as I don't even know what their roles are actually, as science people or as crew. He's just one of the crew. Actually, two more comments about the crew. One is him, because he and his husband are one of the couples that is part of the crew going to colonize a new world. Now, I am all for gay marriage, gay couples, but I ask you this: in the scope of colonizing a world, does it make sense?
I don't know, man.
I mean, I feel bad saying that, because sure, they should be allowed like anything. Like, why couldn't they go to be colony members of a new world?
The problem is it's not said. Like, one of the things that we know is that a lot of the colony, because at the end, Fassbender goes into the colony part and he pulls out, and there are a bunch of embryos, right? So, I mean, they're going to need a lot of hands to raise all these children, whether they're homosexual or heterosexual.
Okay, I guess that makes sense because they're there to farm and to build a community. Sure, they might be having babies. They might be having some babies for real, but then they also have tons of lab babies to raise. So, okay, I retract my statement. I think I can buy it. All makes sense now.
Yeah, but I think that's the only beat at the end that I think makes that point. Do they make the point in any other place about the embryos?
That's a good question. In the opening crawl, did it say embryos or did it just say like 2,000 colonists? Like, I can't actually remember now.
I can't either. If it's embryos or colonists, but it is a combination of the two.
Okay, actually, I don't know. According to the plot on Wikipedia, and again, I don't know if this is pulled from that or somewhere else, but it says the ship is en route to colonize the planet Origay 6, carrying 2,000 colonists and 1,140 human embryos in cryogenic stasis. So there you go.
Wait, say that again. How colonists and 2,000 embryos?
2,000 colonists and 1,140 human embryos.
Okay. Well,
odd number, but
it's a weird number. Maybe they're sure some of them won't survive, etc., etc., etc.
We already see one that didn't, so yeah.
Yeah. Make room for baby, though. At the end, put the little okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was one of your questions. You had a second question.
My last one is just a gripe about our last couple on the ship. They're just like, you know what? Our entire crew has died, but you know what? Let's make love in the shower. It's like, all right. I guess Ridley just wanted a sexy alien murder scene, but
yeah, that's exactly what he wanted.
God. Oh my God. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's it. So should we move into the back half?
I guess.
All right. Let's first take a quick break.
The Next Reel is a production of TruStory FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. Music by Zabutan, Dan Mayo, and Ezekiel Raz, Oriel Novella, and Eli Catlin. Andy usually finds all the stats for the awards and numbers at the-numbers.com, boxofficemojo.com, imdb.com, and wikipedia.org. Find the show and the full archive at trustory.fm. You can follow us from there, too, and learn about membership. Check out our merch store at thenextreel.com/merch, and if your app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show. Sequels and remakes. What did Scott have planned?
Oh boy, he had so many plans. So many plans. He talked about a trilogy. He talked about maybe it was 4 films. He said maybe it's even 6 films. Like, he clearly wanted to go all Avatar on this and just kind of keep doing this for the rest of his remaining days. Potentially, he even said that we would eventually possibly even return to Sigourney Weaver, bring her back in. He said, somebody has to be her parents. We're eventually going to get to them. And I was like, oh my God, please, no, please just don't go that route.
Jesus, he's gone full Skywalker.
Oh, I know, it's terrible. But really, I mean, the long and the short of it is because this was, by the studio considered a box office failure, paired with the fact that Disney bought Fox, none of that ever got off the ground. And as of 2025, Ridley Scott finally said, where it's going now, I think I've done enough, and I just hope it goes further. So, and then, of course, there's Alien Romulus, which came out in 2024, which we will talk about next week. I wonder if that's the where it's going now that Ridley Scott was just like, no, I'm not interested anymore. You clearly don't care about AI like I do.
Yeah, right. AI and AI God. And so you said you didn't like Alien Earth that much.
I couldn't even get through the first season. I hated the characters so much. All these grown-ups acting like they were kids. Like, it was so stupid. I was just like, these people it's like acting class watching this show. It's so dumb.
Okay. I liked it more than you.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people did. I know they went into a second season, but yeah.
Well, would you say they did get a second season? I haven't been following
I thought they did. Yeah, I thought they did.
I don't know. If that's great. If they did, I think that's great. There were some clever aliens in it. I like the fact that there were other aliens. I like that we're just saying, you know what, the universe is a really scary place, and we're going to look at some other reasons it's really scary. I was much more interested in the creatures they were creating than the alien super kids.
Yeah. The alien super kids were the worst. I did like the aliens. I wish that I could have just had more of that. But season 2 starts shooting later this year.
Okay.
Just confirmed it.
All right.
So
there
you go.
I'm fair. I'm fine with that. Okay. So how to do an award season.
Did okay. 3 wins with 18 other nominations. At the Saturn Awards, it was nominated for Best Science Fiction Film, which is weird because it's terrible, but lost to Blade Runner 2049. At the Satellite Awards, it was nominated for Best Visual Effects, also losing to Blade Runner 2049. At the Golden Schmoes, it was nominated for Biggest Disappointment of the Year and lost to Justice League. I guess they hadn't seen the director's cut of that yet. And at the Fright Meter Awards, it was nominated for Best Visual Effects, but lost to something called The Void, which I am not familiar with. But there you go.
Okay, well, it got some attention. How did it do at the box office? Sad trombone.
Well, for Scott's second return to this franchise, he had a budget of $97 to $111 million, which would be about $143.2 million in today's dollars. The movie premiered May 4th, 2017 in London before its May 12th opening in the UK and May 19th opening in the US, where it opened opposite Everything Everything, Diary of a Wimpy Kid: The Long Haul, and Baywatch. This landed in the number 1 spot, but it only held that for a week and only stayed in the top 10 for 4 weeks because it sucks. Still, it did well, going on to earn $74.2 million domestically and $166.6 million internationally for a total gross of $307.7 million. That lands the film with an adjusted profit per finished minute of $1.3 million. A drop from Prometheus, but still a profit, but apparently not according to the studio because they felt that it was a disappointment. So maybe they spent more in prints and advertising that isn't reflected here.
Look, I think that this movie, I know it says it's in the Apfum column, and I would have expected it in the Alpfum column, but it definitely got no more of these movies being made as is, which I call a massive win for humanity.
Yeah, thank goodness. Thank goodness that we shift directions from here. This is really just, it's a mess of a prequel sequel that really suffers. We've got a visionary director who wanted to go one way with Prometheus, and the studio who wanted to go another way, and now everybody's forced to play in both worlds and kind of create this continuing blend of ideas that it just made for a disaster of a film. But a fun one to talk about.
A fun one to talk about. This movie is the result of 2 parties that could not fight about it in a boardroom. Right? They needed to fight about it and settle it long before it reached any of us. It is the result of just sort of Ridley Scott stubbornly wanting to come back to this franchise with something to say and spending 2 films and over almost 6 hours trying to find increasingly indirect ways to say it. And it's confusing and messy, and it's not the Alien return we deserved.
No. 100% not. All right, well, that is it for our conversation about Alien Covenant. Next week, we are looking at Alien Romulus. Set between Alien and Aliens, it's Fede Alvarez's love letter to the franchise that gets a lot right, even if you have to sit through a deeply uncomfortable digital recreation of Ash and more callbacks than you can count. It's still a great watch. We'll see you then. For now, let's do our ratings.
Letterboxd.com/thenextreel. That's where you can find our HQ page over on Letterboxd, our favorite social media site for movie lovers. What are you going to do with Covenant?
Well, you might have seen that last time I watched it, it was at 1.5. I left it sitting at 1.5. But honestly, it's a 1-star film. It's
okay.
It's actually dropped the more that I've thought about it.
You know what's weird about it after our conversation? I have been and remain a 2-star on this film because of one name we did not drop, which is Dariusz Wolski. I think shoots it in a lovely way, and I think there are some,
albeit too bright.
It was too bright, but I don't necessarily fault. I fault a lot of things for getting there, but I do like the way he handles landscapes. I like the way he handles the location, and I think it leverages some of the same things that he did in Prometheus, especially that the opening sequence of Prometheus, which I think is gorgeous, and so I celebrate that stuff. The other star is for what Fassbender was trying to do. I think Fassbender was trying to show up to a movie that did not deserve his twins, and that's what we get. So 2 stars, no heart.
Well, that averages out to 1.5 stars, no hearts. That will be what we rated over on our account on Letterboxd, which you can find at The Next Reel. You can find me there at Soda Creek Film and Pete at Pete Wright. So what did you think about Alien Covenant? We would love to hear your thoughts. Hop into the Show Talk channel over in our Discord community, where we will be talking about the film this week.
When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Letterboxd giveth Andrew.
As Letterboxd always doeth.
Did you go high or low?
I went lowish. I'm at 2 stars.
Is that 2?
Stars,
okay.
Yeah, right.
All right.
You.
What do you got?
I've got 2 stars, no heart, by Grunge Grandpa 99, who has this to say: Michael Fassbender kissing Michael Fassbender was the best part.
Okay, we went with the similar aesthetic in our reviews, and I want to say sometimes you make a project and you feel really good about something that you write in it, and then that project gets made, and years go by, maybe months, maybe years, maybe just weeks, but it's not until you hear the line from somebody else that you realize what a horrible mistake you've made. And that is what Cora points out with their 3-star review. Quote, "You blow, I do the fingering," is an actual thing Michael Fassbender said. I am 12 years old, but it hit me so wrong in this movie. All right. Thanks, Letterboxd.